Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript party and my buddy Rhett. Rhett is an African gray parrot that I kind of let hang out back there because you know, my wife also does things online and she's downstairs, and Rhett is just kind of like usually in the living room. She has a big cage in the living room, and she hangs in there, but she doesn't know what's going on anywhere. And so then she would hear me doing in my office. She would hear me doing these, and she would also want to do that. But anyways, it is January 1st for me. Happy New Year's, everybody! 2025, we made it, and it's very exciting. Um, I am. This is the first video in a new web series, and basically, I'm just going to show what the old videos are and sort of explain why we're starting a new thing. I would say the number one reason is it's just there's a few architectural things that I discovered while I was building stuff. Good job, Rhett. That's nice. Um, that while I was building things, there was just some things I discovered, mostly around like sort of commonizing things. Normally, things you want to build stuff as a software developer in a very common way, like a common reusable way. But a lot of times, if you don't have the domain knowledge, you can't. You just don't understand what the all the wrinkles are and all that. But so, anyways, this is something that we built out. The very last thing we built out was this torus knot in ThreeJS, and the very last episode of that web series, I just kind of played around a little bit, and then after I got done, I played around a little bit more, and got this knots working where you could control the number of knots. So, like, if you set this to one, you'll see this, and that's pretty neat. And then two, and then three, and four, and five, six. I'm just gonna fly through these things. Seven, eight, nine, and then let's go to 90, then 900, and 9,000. Okay, that's cool, right? That's really, really cool. 90,000, 900,000. Okay, so it gets flat, and if as we go better, higher, it gets flatter. I don't really understand why. I'm sure a mathematician would love to dig into that, but that's if you add one, all suddenly it gets more thickness again. So that is cool. There, that is very cool. That is one of my favorite ones. Just randomly going across and playing with this stuff. Four, and then five, six, seven, eight, and nine. So yeah, you could do cool stuff with ThreeJS, and that's the whole point of everything. Is these cool things that you do. Um, I just have to make a statement that Rhett is just back there. I don't know. She just adds chaos to the system, and I think it's important to have some chaos in the system because honestly, the main reason I do this, I explained this several times in the last video series, is really more selfish reasons. It's more like I'm trying to take muscle memory knowledge that I understand and then convert that into like um, conceptual knowledge that I have verbal access to in human language. Right now, what happens is a lot of times I'll drop down into a flow state. I'll just start coding. I'll even during these videos, you'll see that I'll just start coding, and then like I'm in a different world altogether, and I've learned a lot in that state, and I don't know how to communicate that outside the state. I've definitely been doing this for a year. I believe this was video like 335, right? So there's 335 sessions to get to this point, and then now I'm starting all over from scratch, and I definitely became a much better developer during that process. But anyways, so in order to, I one thing I changed is now I'm um, doing all this on my big screen, which is like a 55-inch wide screen, and then this is just like in the middle, and I believe it fits better than before, but it isn't as obvious. Before, what I had was my full lower laptop at the lower part, and that was nice because it was very predictable. But like now my monitor's bigger, so if I move this like to the left or to the right, it is a bit more challenging, and then keeping it where the monitor where the camera is full is challenging. But anyway, so we're done with that. If you ever want to go there, it's this tjspoc1.pgga.com. It is HTTP, not HTTPS, so your browser will probably throw fits when you try to go there. Um, you know, there's this application has no API. It doesn't know anything about anything. It's literally just runs in the browser. There's no JavaScript that makes any remote calls or anything like that. I believe it gets the I don't know. We just inspect and go to the network tab and take a look. Let me see. Let me dock this. There we go. And like if I hit refresh, like see, I think we get one remote call for this. Yeah, fonts.g static. So there's a bit of spyware in that. Like I guess Google could figure out some stuff about you from that. But all the rest of these are just calls to the actual server. Um, there's no Ajax happening or any remote calls like that. So, there's really no reason for it to be a HTTPS. And then getting a certificate for this would just be like one more thing that I need to worry about. So I wasn't really interested in that. But yeah, if you're not comfortable going to an HTTP site, or your browser just refuses to let you there and you can't figure out how to get it there, well, um, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's like there's not that much there. If you're trying to get to this tjspoc1.pgga.com. So anyways, so the first thing, so this is the old page, and it was at this URL called users.mari text showtime. And now the new one is going to be at uh, show space and time, maybe SP time. Um, so I'm just going to use this thing here. Let me see if I can make this full size now. Got to get a little bit more thing. So a little bit more comfortable with this. So this is about 25, no, probably about 30% of my overall screen of the monitor that I'm on. So I'm just going to go cd dot dot, cd dot dot, and I'm going to make a directory called SP. So that's showtime, space, and time, T and T. And then I'm going to go in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create an npm project in here. So I'm going to say npm init, and I'm just going to have it go with the defaults. Guess there's no reason for this to be so small. So basically, we have created one. So if I do a dir, we have a package.json. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say code dot. So in my computer, the way it's set up, it's on Windows. Code is, it knows when I installed Visual Studio Code, it somehow updated my path of my environment variables so that it would know what code is. And code basically brings up one of these windows. So basically now we have another version of this code. So I'm going to close this, the old one, and I have my new one. and I have my desktop. I probably should move this guy off of where I plan to record from. Um, and then I guess what I'll do is I'll just try to increase the size of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this welcome thing and I'm going to say uh, terminal. I'm going to tell it to create a terminal. So it will show a terminal down here. I guess it's based on the previous size. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this package.json. And you'll see there's really nothing in here. So I'm going to install the Angular CLI. So npm install at Angular/CLI. And this should take a second. And now I have an Angular, I think, well, it will update this package .json file when it's done. And I'll have an Angular CLI installed in this node modules folder. So this will be the one I use, and what will be nice is it will tell me what version of the Angular CLI that it is installing. I guess it's still working. Okay, so 19.06. Wow, they've done a lot of revisions in the last month. All right, so now we have an Angular CLI installed. Now this directory here is going to be my my directory that I want to use. This is going to be my Git directory. I mean, this is going to be my project directory. So within this directory, if I were to have an API, I would create a folder for that. I'm not going to have an API for that, but if I had more than one, like let's say I had some utility programs and stuff like that, that would all fall in this folder. But also one of the things that will also come in here will be a Git, my front end. Now, I think in most cases I would probably make this my Git folder, um, but just uh, uh, the only downside to that, I would make this the top of my Git, and I would make everything in all the APIs and utilities, everything part of this directory. But just for the sake of it being a little bit easier to see front end changes, I'm going to create a new folder, and the Angular CLI will create a Git repo in there for me. So I want to make sure that I run this when I run commands for the Angular CLI, that they run in this context for this project. So I'm going to add a script, and that's going to say ng, and I will say I'm just going to make it ng help. Ng, I believe it's dash dash. I can never remember. I don't do this that often. And then I'm going to run npm run ngh. And so that will execute this command ng in this context, which I think is pretty important, because a lot of times what happens is you will install a version of the Angular CLI globally on your machine, and then maybe you create a new project and you pull down another project from somebody else, and then you try to run some commands, but you're running it in a different version of the CLI. This ensures that that doesn't happen. That might just be an old school problem that is gone now. I don't know, but I find this to be helpful. So you see that we have this ng help ran, and now it's telling us what the possible things are. And I believe what I want is ng new and the name. So this is going to be space and time. So, and I'm just going to say ng and then n for new. And what it's going to run is ng new space time. So basically, we will control the things that are in our space and when they are within the time. So that is what I decided to call it. So npm run ngn. And so now this will create a brand new Angular application for us. And that will take a minute. So I will probably, okay, yeah, it has a few questions. I like SCSS. It's been great for me. Every place I've worked has had SCSS. I've actually worked at a couple places that started off with SASS and then like for some reason moved over to this one as or maybe it was less. I don't know. But this one has always been really good for me. So I'm gonna go with this. And then I do not want server-side rendering. Um, I don't really know. I tried server-side rendering on a few examples. It just didn't work out, and I just have never really dug into it. I don't find it particularly like. I mean, I understand why people want server-side rendering, so that it's a little bit easier for the for like the bots and stuff to be able to index your page, so you're more searchable and all that. But I'm not really worried about that at all. Um, and I would rather, I don't know, I just kind of like this better. Um, so now this takes it a minute, but you see that it has created a new folder called Space and Time. So while this is doing that, I'm actually going to hop over, use my browser. I have no idea where this browser is going to pop up. There we go. And I'm going to go to GitHub and create a new repo for this work. So that was the old one. It was good. You were awesome. And now we're going to create a new one. Let's see. I'm going to call it Space ThreeJS experiment. Project. I'm going to go ahead and make it public so all of y'all can see it. I believe I don't need to initialize it because Angular will initialize it, and we are going to, I don't know about the license or anything like that. So um, I'm not an attorney. My son is an attorney, but I am not an attorney. So I have no idea what any of that does. Okay, so if you've done this thing before, boom, create a new repository or push an existing repository from the command line. And this is what we're going to want to do. Let's see where we're at. So we're still installing stuff on our Angular application. But yeah, so I just want to oh, we're done. Okay. So now we're just going to go into our new folder via the command line. So cd space and time. And I'm just going to say code dot. And now we have that. I'm just going to close the old one. And I'm going to close the welcome. And then I'm going to readjust this. This is going to take a little bit of getting used to. So there, I would say there's at least 100 known reasons why I'm creating a new one. At the very top is the biggest well, one of the very first reasons, not the biggest reason, one of the very first reasons is because when I created the last playlist, I didn't actually create a playlist. So I numbered everything really well so that you'd be able to figure it out. But the problem is that once I got over about 100, people started having a really hard time finding the first one. And there, I would get complaints from users saying, "Hey, why didn't you put this in a playlist?" And then they started really getting loud around 300 videos in, and then like I just did. I was like, okay, let me just start all over. I'm gonna start with a brand new one, and the very first one is going to be the place. Because some people actually want to be able to like start and just start from the very beginning and kind of learn as we go. So that is one of the main reasons. New terminal. So anyway, so now we have our new terminal and we have our instructions over here uh, from Git, and they're saying, hey, what you want to do is you want to do this git add. So we're just going to copy this and cross our fingers that this works. Looks like that worked. So basically all that did was tell my local Git repository. So this wouldn't necessarily always work for you because I think you have to do a Git init normally if you don't have anything in there so that you can create a Git repository, but that happened automatically. The Angular CLI created one. So, you know, and then I believe everybody's moved over to naming these things main, which that's fine. I mean, I liked the old name master because it was just kind of a master craftsman or something like that, like someone who just absolutely gained mastery. um, One of the things that I genuinely believe is that like you have like you will develop as a developer once you've got thousands and thousands of hours of development in. You'll develop in one of uh, three ways. You'll either become like an elite developer where you can do things and like it's magical. Like everyone's just like, oh no, you just lock him in a closet for an hour, and when he comes out or she comes out, it's all done. It's amazing. And then there's your expert developer, and that's someone that can like explain how everything works. They can explain what you want to do, every piece of it, but they can't actually develop anything. Now the thing about the elite developers is generally they can do anything, but they can't explain it. They're just like, I don't know, I just go in there and when I'm done, I'm done, and all that. And then there's the master developer, and that's the developer that like knows how to do all those things and can explain it all. And it's very very difficult to obtain that sort of mastery, because what happens is if you spend too much sort of time in a flow state and you're just coding, it all becomes muscle memory and you don't remember how to do it. Like it's very difficult to explain how to tie your shoes to somebody, right? Like you're like, I don't know, you just do it. My fingers just do it. Or like, how to pick up a pencil. Like you just pick it up. You don't know what all the steps are. One example I use all the time is like when I was a kid. We used to have landline phones, and I could remember people's phone numbers while I was holding the phone, but I couldn't remember their phone numbers when I wasn't holding the phone. So a big reason for doing this is to obtain mastery, and I'm only doing that because the um, the name of this was of this. I guess the main name of this thing is going to be uh, main instead of master. But interestingly enough, it looks like when Angular created it, and you can't see this because my camera's in the way, my face is in the way. It actually named this as master, and I believe that was in the Angular CLI did that. But I think that will get changed to main here in a second by doing that command. So basically, is a git branch and m main. So I believe it's saying to make the base most important branch main. So I believe that's what that did. Now git push origin main. So this should take all this code and push it up to GitHub. And you'll notice that the node modules up here is grayed out, and that is because there is a file called git ignore that has a whole list of things that Git should not upload. And the reason is because node modules just has a bunch of files on it that are just, it's enormous. It's by far probably the biggest part of all that. And most of those files, like if people were to clone, were to clone this project, they'll do, when they do an npm install, all those files would get filled out. So there's no reason to, it's just a huge waste to just have millions and millions of, like if every Angular application pushes out with all the node modules, you just have the same file duplicated in millions of repositories. So that is why that is. If you did not, like if you built your own thing out and you have node modules, please, you probably, it'll make your life a lot easier just to have that ignored. The other main advantages is as you do npm installs, you'll get new versions of these files, you know, based on however you got your package set up. There's like a whole naming scheme in here with these little carrots and stuff like that. And see this tilde. These sorts of things tell the system how to download the different dependencies. And so some of these mean like, hey, if a five, this one probably means that like if a Jasmine 5.0.1 comes out, then let's go ahead and take it. But if a 5 point, and I believe maybe even with the tilde, maybe even the 5.2's up, but a 6 won't come over. And then with these, you know, it's maybe the other way around, where only this one, if this one increases, but don't increase that one, or vice versa. But anyways, those things in the node modules are constantly changing. So having to commit those things and all that is just a real pain in the butt. So just, it's probably, your life is just a lot easier if you git ignore the node modules. So so now we're going to push it. And so now it pushed all that stuff up there. So now if we go back to Git, what we'll see is all of our files. And it even created its own README. That's why we didn't need to create our own. And it gives instructions on how to build stuff and how to run end-to-end tests. And I think I'm going to try to set up end-to-end tests this time, just because I think end-to-end tests on a ThreeJS thing are going to be damn cool. And then I'll probably do unit testing. I think it'll be worth it. And then building the project and all that. So anyways, this video is 28 minutes long. Ideally I like to have my videos be about 10 minutes long. I very rarely make that goal. I think anything under 20 minutes is pretty good. Like if I can get the video, like get a good video out and it's less than 10 minutes, I give myself an A+ for that. And if I get it in less than 20 minutes, then I give myself a B+ for that. And if I get it in less than 30 minutes, I give myself a C+. And then anything over 30 minutes, we start getting, if we get to 40, it's a D+. And anything over an hour is an F, just a solid F. Sometimes it takes that long. But anyway, so that is that. Happy New Year's, everybody. It is probably, if you watch this on the first day it came out, it's January 3rd. But I do hope right now you're having a wonderful New Year. And I hope your January 3rd, which is a Friday, so, you know, that'll be cool, is cool too. Anyways, on the next video, we are going to probably install ThreeJS and the TypeScript definitions for ThreeJS, and maybe also get the first example code, which is a rotating cube, working on our ThreeJS, and then we'll start to go from there, breaking it up into pieces. One of the main things that I learned on the first Three.js that I try to kind of retrofit, and I think I could have eventually retrofitted this, but was that like I thought that Three.js I could just have a subset of the Three.js objects in my and I just kept a subset, and then if I needed to know anything beyond my subset, I could always just reference Three.js for that information, because Three.js would be the holder of the truth, and that is just not the case, because the problem is that Three.js doesn't store all the information that you might want. And a good example of that would be the look at. Like if you say, hey, the camera is looking at 0.001 and then the camera moves, well, it's no longer looking at 0.000, it's looking at wherever, because the camera doesn't rotate at along that. The problem is that Three.js doesn't keep that calculation of what it's currently looking at. And then, so that is probably, like, that's one of the things that you just need to store yourself. And that is not something that's in Three.js. The other thing that Three.js doesn't store is, like, let's say you create a mesh with a text mesh. So you want like some kind of cool 3D words on there. It doesn't store the original word. It only stores all the geometries of the, like, let's say you have a letter A. It doesn't store that originally started off as the letter A. It stores all the points and all that make up the A, but it doesn't know that it's an A. So that's something that you would have to store if you want to be able to recreate the, like, let's say you were going to say Crafty by Melissa 1.0, and now you're going to say, oh, I want to change that to 2.0. You don't have that initial text anywhere. You have to store that yourself. And then the Three.js API does give you like places to store data, but that doesn't play well with um, TypeScript. TypeScript wants everything to be well defined and all that. So anyways, the point is that you do need like your own, if you wanted to create like something that interactive that you can create Three.js stuff with, you need to keep your version of the data, and then there's the Three.js version of data. So then you need like code that does the translation, and that needs to be separate from the code that manages your stuff. So like Three.js doesn't have as far as I know, I don't think Three.js has like an inherent animation scheme to it. It's the animation is you telling it move this mesh, this object from point A to point B, right? And do it at this pace, like you have to control all that stuff. That's not built in. So if you wanted to store an animation, you have to store all that information. At least if you're using TypeScript, you need to make sure that you store that. So anyways, yeah, so here we are. We are on step 1 of this project, and we have our GitHub set up, and we have our basic project set up. I guess I have to do this npm start. I didn't even think of it, but it's probably one of the most important things is that you show that the application, so now we have a full-fledged Angular application built out, and it has created stuff, and now it's running on localhost 4200. So now if I go to my browser and I go to localhost 4200, hello, space and time, congratulations, right? So then I can come in here and I can just go like in app component, and I say hello world. And we come back over here, and now we have hello world. And that is the end of this video. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.